Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to tell you a story that sounds almost unbelievable, but it really happened. It's about how I bought a piece of land, a small lake reserve to be exact, and how that one decision turned an entire neighborhood against me. What started as a peaceful escape became a dramatic battle between me, the local homeowners association, and even the police. But what they didn't know was that I owned more than just a piece of water. I owned all their access to it. It all began when I moved out of the city. After years of noise, traffic, and crowded apartment buildings, I wanted peace. I had always dreamed of having a quiet place by a lake, a place where I could fish, write, or just breathe without hearing car horns. I spent weeks scrolling through online listings until I came across something interesting, a small private lake reserve for sale. The price was surprisingly low and the pictures were beautiful. Calm water, trees reflecting in the ripples, wooden docks along the edges. It looked perfect. At first, I thought it was a scam. A lake that size shouldn't cost that little. But after some research, I found out the land had been sitting unsold for years. The previous owner had passed away and the estate wanted to sell quickly. I called the real estate agent, and within a week I was standing by that lake in person. It was even more beautiful than the pictures. The breeze was cool, birds were flying overhead, and the surface of the water shimmered like glass. I knew right then I wanted it. We closed the deal fast. I didn't even realize how large the property actually was until I got the full survey map. It turned out the lake itself was included in my ownership, not just the land around it. The property lines went all the way through the water and extended right up to the edge of the neighboring residential community. I didn't think much of it then. I was just excited to finally own my dream place. A few weeks later, I started visiting the property on weekends. I built a small dock and put up a simple private property sign just to mark the boundary. That's when things started to get weird. The first weekend, a group of people came walking down from the nearby houses. They were carrying coolers and fishing rods. One of them waved at me like it was normal to just stroll onto someone else's land. When I told them it was private property, they laughed. One woman said, "Sweetheart, we've been coming here for years. This lake belongs to the community." I tried to explain that I had just bought it, and that the title deed clearly showed the lake was privately owned. They didn't believe me. One of them even said, "We pay HOA fees to maintain this area. You can't just show up and claim it." I stayed calm, told them to contact their association, and left it at that. But that was only the beginning. The next weekend, I came back and found tire tracks near the shore. Someone had moved my sign. A pile of trash and beer cans was left near the waterline. I cleaned it up quietly, thinking maybe it was just a misunderstanding. But then, one afternoon, I heard the sound of voices again. Angry ones. I walked down to the lake and saw a group of about 10 people gathered near my dock. They were shouting at each other, holding their phones, taking pictures. When I approached, one man, clearly the group's leader, stepped forward and said, "We've reported you. You can't restrict access to our lake." Before I could even reply, I saw flashing blue and red lights in the distance. The police had arrived. 2 officers walked down the path, calm but serious. One of them asked, "Are you the property owner here?" I nodded and handed over my documents. The HOA members stood behind the officers, whispering and pointing at me like I was some kind of criminal. The officer examined the papers carefully, then asked, "So you're saying you own this entire lake?" "Yes," I replied. "The deed includes the full water boundary and the surrounding reserve. I can show you the map." When I spread out the map on the hood of my truck, the officer's expression changed. He looked at the HOA leader and said, "It appears he's right. The entire lake falls within his property lines." The man's face went pale. "That can't be true," he stammered. "We've used this lake for decades." The officer shrugged. "That doesn't change the ownership, sir." The group erupted. People were yelling, waving their arms, claiming they had rights, that their kids swam there every summer. But the truth was simple. Nobody had ever checked the official property records. The lake wasn't public land. It was privately owned by the previous owner, and now it was mine. Over the next few weeks, things escalated fast. I started getting letters, angry ones, from the Homeowners Association. They claimed I was restricting community access and violating neighborhood traditions. They threatened to sue me if I didn't remove the fences I had put up along the pathways leading to the lake. I hired a lawyer who laughed when he read their complaint. "They don't have a leg to stand on," he said. "You own the water rights, the shoreline, everything. If they want access, they'll have to ask your permission. But the HOA didn't back down. They held meetings, sent me notices, even spread rumors that I had forged the ownership papers. Then one morning I woke up to find a sign nailed to one of the trees. Community access will be restored. Someone had spray-painted thief on the dock. That's when I decided I wasn't going to stay quiet anymore. I installed cameras around the property. Every entrance, every path. I also filed a report with the sheriff's office documenting the vandalism. My lawyer suggested sending a cease and desist notice to the HOA, and we did. That same evening, I received a call from their president. Her voice was cold. "You're making a big mistake," she said. "This lake belongs to the people here. You can't own water." I replied calmly, "Maybe you should check your bylaws, because the county records say otherwise." Then I hung up. A few days later, another set of police cars showed up, this time for a trespassing disturbance. Apparently, some residents had decided to hold a community fishing day at the lake, right on my property. When the officers arrived, they saw families sitting by the shore, kids playing in the water, and people acting like nothing was wrong. I showed the officers my video footage, the legal documents, and the previous incident reports. After a short conversation, the officers turned to the crowd and said, "You all need to leave. This is private property." The HOA was furious. Some people shouted insults as they left, others glared silently. But the message was clear, the law was on my side. Weeks passed. Slowly the visits stopped. The shouting faded. The HOA stopped sending letters. I thought maybe, finally, peace had returned. But one morning, as I sat by the lake drinking coffee, my lawyer called with a grin in his voice. "You're going to love this," he said. "We just got a copy of the HOA's covenants and community maps. Guess what? They've been using a lake they never even owned for decades, and your property deed doesn't just cover the lake. It includes the only access road leading to it. Technically, they can't even reach the water without stepping onto your land." I sat there stunned. For months, they'd been accusing me of stealing their lake, when in reality I owned every inch of their so-called community access. The irony was almost poetic. Instead of blocking them completely, I decided to be the bigger person. I sent the HOA a formal letter offering a yearly access permit. If they wanted to use the lake, they'd have to pay a small maintenance fee and sign a liability waiver. At first they refused, but after a few months of not being able to fish, swim, or launch boats, they quietly agreed. Now the lake is peaceful again. The neighbors wave politely when they see me. The same people who once called the cops on me now pay an annual fee to use my property. Sometimes, as I sit on the dock and watch the sunset reflect on the calm water, I think about how strange life can be. One simple purchase changed everything. I didn't buy the lake to make enemies or start a feud. I bought it because I wanted peace. But sometimes peace comes only after you stand your ground. The HOA learned a lesson that day. Never assume what you don't own, and never challenge someone who's done their homework. Every time I hear the soft splash of the water or see the ripples spread under the golden evening light, I smile. The lake that caused chaos now brings calm again. The same water that divided us ended up teaching everyone a lesson in respect, law, and ownership. So, if you ever dream of owning your own piece of paradise, remember this story. Sometimes peace comes with a price, and sometimes the quietest battles are the ones fought with paperwork, patience, and persistence. And that's how I learned that owning a lake isn't just about beauty. It's about boundaries, rights, and standing up when others try to take what's yours. Thank you for watching. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more unbelievable real-life stories like this one.